Welcome to the League of Women Voters Candidates Forum for the contested races for Geneva City Council and mayoral races. I am Kelly Rotella with the Voter Services Committee for the League of Women Voters of Central Kane County, and I live in St. Charles. First off, thank you to the Geneva Library for welcoming us and helping us in our mission to educate voters in this election. This forum is designed to focus specifically on the contested races. I would like to take a second to clarify our empty chair policy, which ensures that we do not hold forums in which only one candidate is in attendance. In the case of only one candidate's participation, that candidate will have the opportunity to offer a brief introductory statement of up to 3 minutes. The candidates who are present have graciously signed and agreed to the format and media policies established by the League of Women Voters. We have proactively gathered questions in advance from our community and are also welcoming questions from today's audience. If you raise your hand, we will find you and grab your question. These questions will be reviewed by trained League members for clarity and relevance. While we may not be able to address every question here today, I encourage you to reach out directly to the candidates should your question go unasked. Today's event is being live streamed and recorded by Andrew Van Leader and Audrey Karff from our local Batavia cable access television station, BATV. The recording will be shared on the websites of the League of Women Voters of Central Kane County, BATV, and the Illinois Voter Guide. Additionally, we are very fortunate to have the support of several members of the local chapter of the AAUW, along with several scouts from Troop 144, fourth graders from Williamsburg. They are going to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance to open our forum, and then we will get started. Our moderator for today's forum is Jan Dorner, who is part of the League of Women Voters of Elmhurst. Now let's proceed with the forum. Thank you, Troop 144 and Moderator Dorner.
Girl Scouts attention, audience attention, color guard attention, color guard advance. Color guard post the color. Color guard salute the colors. Audience, please stand and remove your hats. We will now say the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Audience may be seated. Color guard dismissed.
Thank you, Girl Scouts. Welcome to the Candidate Forum put on by the League of Women Voters of Central Kane County. My name is Jan Dorner, and I'm from the League of Women Voters of Elmhurst. The League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan organization that neither supports nor opposes candidates or parties for any office. The League's purpose is to promote political responsibility through the informed and active participation of citizens in government. Providing this forum allows citizens to become better informed about the issues facing their community and to become better acquainted with the candidates running for office. We are happy to provide this service for the community. At this time, I would ask that you please turn off cell phones and other electronic devices. I would also ask that you refrain from applauding or in any other way demonstrating support or opposition of a candidate. No campaign literature may be passed out in this room. Just an additional about the no cards and pencils and the questions. We ask that the questions be for all candidates. I won't be reading any questions for a specific candidate. This form is for those seeking to be a Geneva City Council member for a 4-year term. All candidates running in a contested race were invited. Ward 4 candidate Amy Mayer will give a 3-minute statement since her opponent, Aaron DeSilvestro, had a work commitment and is unable to attend today's event.
Hello, everyone. Hello, everyone. Thank you to the League of Women Voters for hosting this event and for providing me the opportunity to give a brief introduction of myself and my qualifications to be on City Council. My name is Amy Mayer. I was born and raised in Geneva. My parents were both involved in the community. They were both teachers for Geneva. My dad was an alderman, and he was also city treasurer for a number of years. So I grew up learning that the challenge of working through issues that have strong support and strong opposition. I've been serving as the 4th Ward alderperson for the past 4 years, and I'm seeking another 4 years in the election on April 1st. I'm a 1990 graduate of Geneva High School, and I went on to study architecture at the University of Illinois in Champaign. I'm an architect, and I work as a construction executive for a large nationwide developer, where I've worked for 26 years. I have the experience to question and challenge developers and to understand the details of large infrastructure projects. My husband and I both grew up here. We left for a while, but we returned 12 years ago to raise our son and to be close to our family. We appreciate how Geneva has gone from a small, sleepy town to a vibrant community with excellent businesses, services, shops, and restaurants. I care about Geneva, and I serve with the intent of doing the right thing for the citizens of Geneva and for the long-term economic and environmental health of our community. I care about Geneva, and my family supports me. They're here today, and without them, it wouldn't be possible for me to serve. Thank you, David. Thank you, Susan. They know that I seek this position to support the continued excellence that we expect from the City of Geneva and from its elected officials. I enjoy serving on the City Council, and I hope that you'll vote for me in the upcoming election. I'll be hosting a Meet the Candidate event on February 16th at Noble House from 3 to 5 p.m., where you can come and meet me and learn more about it.
Thank you, candidate Mayor. Now you can go wrestle somebody for a spot.
I'm going to take my chair.
Hot commodity here.
Yeah. Okay, so now the rest of the candidates will each have a 1-minute introductory statement. You are determined alphabetically by last name within each ward. Then questions will be asked, and each candidate will have 1 minute to respond in alternating order. Closing statements in continuing rotating alpha rotation will also be 1 minute. LWV Central King County members will keep time, and candidates will strictly adhere to the time limit. Candidates, please notice the timers. When you see the stop sign, you may finish your sentence. Okay, so let me just go through from the far end. Is Ward 3 candidate Lee Esterlid, Ward 3 candidate Larry Furnish. Candidate for Ward 3 Kevin Ziegler did not respond to our invitation despite several attempts. Ward 5 candidate Patrice Bertol, Ward 5 candidate Kim Edwards, and Ward 5 candidate Jeff Palmquist. So let's start with opening statements. Ward 3, Lee Esterlid.
So I can stay here?
You can stay there.
All right, but I'll stand up. Okay.
Greetings, I'm glad to see you're all here. I have to admit, I had thought there'd be like 10 or 15 people, and I would be like, well, nobody really is interested. Although I suspect you're here to see the mayors go at it. But I'll try to be interested. So, I moved with my wife, actually my mother, into Geneva in 2001, coming over from Indiana. I guess to be specific about myself, I have a PhD in history, specializing in things like, military history, but ethics. I've also taught a number of government classes. I've done that for Northwestern as well. So my interest in government often tends to be more theoretical, which leads me to actually trying to be practical. My wife, Erica, and my two sons, Niels and Thor, both of them are in college now, but they went through the entire Geneva system, which was a great experience for them. My mother, who lives in the back of my house, enjoys Geneva and our access to the city, which is one of the things that really ties us in, is that ability to really kind of... I'm out of time? Okay, I can talk for hours. No, it's not true.
Candidate Larry Furnish, Ward 3.
Good afternoon. My name's Larry Furnish. I'm running for the 3rd Ward, Alderman here in Geneva. I would like to thank the League of Women's Voters for putting this forum together. I have been happy to call Geneva my home. For the past 35 years, I have lived in the same house on Division Street. My wife and I have raised 2 children in Geneva. They presently live and are raising my grandchildren here in Geneva on the west side.
You have to hold the mic right up to your mouth.
Okay, that's right.
There you go.
And I'm very passionate about being involved in the community. I have devoted a lot of time here in the community. For over 10 years, we've held garage sales in our front yard donating proceeds to the Lazarus House. A few years ago, I received an award from the Geneva High School for volunteering for the girls' gymnastics team for over 20 years. In the past 15 years, I've worked both the Swedish State Tent and the Festival of Vine of the Geneva Community Chamber. Last year, I received an award from the Geneva Community Chamber as the Volunteer of the Year. I am also a co-founder of the Becky Furnish Foundation. We raise funds, donate scholarships to Geneva High School, and donate funds for the school children in Geneva, from coats to field trips.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Candidate Patrice Berthaud, Ward 5. Test. No?
Just get started.
Right there.
Yeah.
Good afternoon. Thank you to the League of Women Voters for this opportunity. I am Patrice Berthaud. I am driven by a commitment to 3 core principles: transparency, accountability, and competency. Enhancing communication at the municipal level involves several strategies aimed at improving the effectiveness, responsiveness, and inclusivity of local government. You have a right to know how your community is being managed, and I will make it my priority to keep you informed. Accountability is not just a buzzword, it's a pledge. I understand that with every vote and every policy, I am accountable to you. Competency is what we need in our leadership to tackle the significant challenges facing our city, to revitalize and maintain public infrastructure, rehabilitate abandoned buildings, ensuring that our historic district remains a thriving and attractive hub for local business and tourism. My intention is to maximize value for taxpayers while enhancing Geneva's identity and economic vitality. I believe I have the vision and the practical knowledge to make a real difference.
Ward 5 candidate Kim Edwards. You have a minute.
Thank you to the League of Women Voters and to all of you here in attendance today for coming. My name is Kim Edwards and I'm running for the 5th Ward Alderperson position. I absolutely heartfeltly agree with my opponent. Yeah, my friend, you're right. My opponent's statement about transparency and accountability. My third piece of the puzzle is safety. I believe that that is an issue that we need to focus on with a little more clarity in particularly our ward, the 5th Ward. So, my children go to Geneva schools. I've been a resident of Geneva since 2007, and I look forward to being a resident here for a good while longer. Thank you.
Thank you. Ward 5 candidate Jeff Palmquist.
Yes, thank you. Thank you all for attending this afternoon. My name is Jeff Palmquist. I'm running for Geneva 5th Ward Alderman.
Closer.
This is my first time running for any public office. My wife and I love Geneva. Our children, grown children, born and raised here. And we've decided there's no better place, even as we approach retirement, than Geneva, Illinois, to reside. My purpose for running is very simple, twofold. It's a sincere desire for public service, with love of community, and my professional experience over 40 years in the city planning and municipal government arena. I feel like it's time to give back to my community. I've spent a career focusing on making other places better. I look forward to the opportunity with board support to apply that to my hometown of Geneva. Thank you.
Thank you. We're going to start with question 1 with candidate Furnish. Define your vision for economic development for the city. What specifically will you implement to improve development in the city? You have a minute. Yes.
Yeah.
Economic development, in the city, it can come in different ways. The city does quite a good job of selling our city, getting new projects in the town, and moving things forward. Of course, we have TIF districts, and we have other ways to get money to people. Also, the state of Illinois has funds to help out the city also. Our big problem, not a big problem, but is getting these projects to move forward. Economic value, you looked at like Mill Creek for years, the Little Owl for years, and other places, and these all have issues, The money's behind these places. There's been money put into Mill Creek and other things like this, but 15 seconds. The big thing is, it's the city and who's ever developing has to come to an agreement to move forward. And that's something that needs to be helped. We need to help move, these projects forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Berthel.
Thank you very much. To address the economic development, I think it's a multi-task approach. One would be to streamline city services. It's very difficult at the moment to get permits and processes through the city. It's a confusing and overly burdensome process. We need to address our aging infrastructure, and that goes back in order to make of our public buildings, in order to make sure that Geneva is an attractive area for businesses to come to. I think we need to continue our support of the Chamber of Commerce, who does a fantastic job in promoting businesses and festivals and bringing tourism into the city.
Thank you. Candidate Edwards.
I would actually say that my biggest thing in terms of economic development would be taking a step at reflection. We recently made some changes where we're looking at the area-wide possibilities and looking at changing some of the advertising that we do through the Chamber of Commerce, which again I second is a wonderful Chamber of Commerce. But I think we need to take a pause to reflect, to make sure that we're going in the right direction in some of these areas rather than just forging forward with certain ideas.
Candidate Palmquist.
Thank you. As the developable land of Geneva shrinks, I think we need to be careful on how we look at the remaining vacant land and understand there's going to be some flexibility involved and in terms of zoning and development restrictions, and work with the appropriate development to see how we can assist, whether it's through TIF districts or other grants. Along those lines of flexibility, whether that includes additional residential in the downtown through dwellings above, or look at other creative ways of combining some land uses and maximizing the EAV of out the vacant properties that we still have.
Thank you. Candidate Esterly.
Okay, so I revisited the downtown master plan from 2011 the last couple of days, and I realized it was a little dated, but there was a lot of really great stuff in there. And I think perhaps it would be time, maybe we should sit down, because many of the things they're talking about are very true. I think perhaps maybe we would have a citywide plan as we go forward for 2026, 27. It will take a while. And then we can start looking at things like the livability of Geneva. Growth doesn't have to come at the cost of everything else. This is a place where most people live. They don't. A lot of us work outside of Geneva, but we like to shop and do things in Geneva. How about walkability? How about bike lanes? How about the ability to get to different places within town? Why do we have to have bigger buildings? Why can't we have it where everybody feels comfortable? Often when I talk to people, I hear about this is getting built, or we end up with these huge box places and different places. I think we could draw back a little bit, be a little more reflective. I don't think we talk about it too much like it's a crisis. I think we have time to be thoughtful in our development.
Thank you. The next question will go to candidate Berthaud first. The city recently ended a contract with the Geneva Chamber to promote tourism and instead contracted with Aurora Convention and Visitors Bureau. Do you support this? Why or why not?
From the information that I received on that, two things were brought to mind. One was that we went from a targeted Geneva-only funding of that money to it being spread out to a convention bureau that's spread amongst other municipalities. Not familiar with the details of the contract, but that gave me pause. The second thing that gave me pause was that the agreement was entered into before an agreement was made with the chamber to ensure continued funding for the festivals that are so beneficial for Geneva.
Thank you. Candidate Edwards, same question.
I had actually referenced this in my previous answer. That's why I mentioned that I thought we needed to take a pause to reflect and decide whether certain changes would be beneficial or perhaps not. But I do think inventory needs to be taken, and we need to be mindful in our choices moving forward.
Thank you. Candidate Palmquist.
Thank you. Yes, in my professional life, I had the occasion of getting to know the Aurora Convention Tourism, Cord Carlson and those folks, and they have a huge reach, and I think that their resources can be of benefit to further business in Geneva. Compared to our competition, their reach and being able to communicate the amenities of Geneva, I have confidence that Geneva will win over our adjacent communities as far as that tourism.
Thank you. Candidate Esterly.
I'd have to admit on this, I don't have a firm opinion in the sense I would like to think that the people who work for the city and think about these type of things are doing the best possible job they can. I would also like to think that as I go forward, and this is one of the points I was going to make, as an alderman, I really don't want to land in that, if I was to land in that seat with a pre-scheduled or pre-set opinion on everything. I think there would be a lot of things to hear, especially about something like this. And I mean, obviously there are different opinions from people who have more skill in this area, which would then inform the way I might think about it. Because that's not my expertise, and as like my wife would tell you, I'm not allowed to touch the money. And so I would want to hear what other people have to say, and then I could think, and then maybe I could talk to some of the people in my ward and say, what do you think about this? Rather than just kind of me jumping and saying, well, we'll look at it. We'll look at it.
Candidate Furnish.
This is an easy question for me because I do a lot of volunteering with the chamber, and I did get the Volunteer of the Year award last year. Quite frankly, when I saw this, motion that the money used to bring in tourism was given to Aurora, I thought it was a kind of bad thing to happen. The city has their own department that helps, with the city funding and growing, and Chamber does a great job for us. Not only do they run these events, and you think now there's no events going on, so they're doing nothing, but that's wrong. They are all the time. If you're on their mailing list, they have mailings, they have stuff going on regularly. And does Aurora send these mailings out? I haven't got one yet.
This next question goes to candidate Edwards first. Given that new technologies and the decreasing cost of renewable energy may make it possible for Geneva to explore alternative sources for its electricity, despite its contract with NIMPA, do you favor seeking out these alternative sources, or do you favor staying with Prairie State Electricity until termination of Geneva's 50-year contract?
As I had indicated in my previous answers, and I'm going to be a bit of a broken record here, I think it's always good to be reflective, to make sure that we are being mindful in our and directive in our choices rather than just blindly following.
Candidate Almquist?
I support exploring alternatives to fossil fuels or other opportunities for energy. At the same time, we do have a commitment, long-term commitment for some of the capital involved with our current system. And as part of the exploration, I would want to make sure that it's cost feasible or cost neutral, and that we can still ensure reliability and reasonable rates to our residents.
Candidate Esterly.
So that would lead me back to that same idea that somebody who knows more about this than I do would ideally inform me. But as I was looking, there's the Leadership in Energy and Environmental Design, LEED. Those are requirements we can kind of fit into place. There are a number of other ideas as far as transportation. Can we move to electric vehicles? Can we do things that would start to mitigate that? But I think the idea of simply leaping out a contract into something that's far more expensive, and we'll see taxes go up, I think perhaps is getting ahead of it. However, if a majority of people, and perhaps this would require some sort of vote overall, would a majority of people be willing to pay more taxes to alleviate the pollution that's created by the energy source? And if most people said yes, then I would think that would be a thing to do. But people have to know what they're getting into as far as what they're paying for. If people say no, then we should fulfill that obligation.
Candidate French.
City of Geneva, this has been going on for quite some time. You know, to save our electric costs, they wisely reached out and invested in this Prairie State power plant. It's the wise thing to do. We also get power from the turbines that we built here in town, which is wise. We get it from the dump over there, and that's wise. And they do have a program, and they're pushing people to put solar systems on their houses. That's wise also. As far as this power plant goes, the contract ends in 2045 with the carbon emissions, and this thing is supposed to die, you know. But maybe with some luck, you know, they can keep that thing going for another 10 or 15 years until, smarter and better electric, gets to us.
Thank you. Candidate Bertha.
50-year contract is an extraordinarily long contract in an area where power generation is moving at a much faster pace. The evolution of that is extraordinary. Do we, within this contract, have the flexibility to ensure reliability and cost effectiveness? There are resources available to determine our best available options. I would consider having a subcommittee to discover what our best options are and then move within that.
Thank you. Candidate Palmquist, this goes to you first. How do you think the tax increment financing for TIF 4 should be used?
I've had the opportunity to serve on 3 joint review boards professionally, so I understand how TIF works. I have not analyzed how TIF 4 is currently functioning, the performance at this point. I'd like to see if there's enough, if there's enough increment that we really have accrued or would be accrued to be able to invest and look at the plan and develop an appropriate approach if there is indeed money available. In many cases, TIFs don't perform well or underperform, and there's not the opportunity that we may think there is.
Thank you. Candidate Esther.
Oh, so obviously I'm sitting on the other end of a rather wise individual. So I also would agree, having talked to somebody I know who knows a lot about TIFs, because I don't, but the idea to me that TIF is that constant notion of somewhere in the future this will come to pass. And I have to admit I have become less and less interested and less enamored of the idea of a TIF and the idea of having to buy somebody in. I actually think that as we go forward with this, I don't know if we're locked, but as we go forward, I can see the idea of starting to draw back from this. If Geneva is what we say it is, why do we have to buy people in? Why do we have to wait 5, 10, 15 years? Maybe there would be a 6-month or a 1-year TIF, or maybe no. You know, if people want to be here, it seems that people want to be here, but then we seem to have to buy them in with these huge contracts, and I would argue that we don't.
Thank you. Candidate Furnish.
TIF thing is it's a tough subject to talk about. Who needs it, who does not need it? You know, if you have a blighted area and they need TIF money to get it moving, we should do it. We have other people like AJ Antunes that's building out on Kirk Road. They didn't even ask for TIF money. So there's people, you know, that understand the TIF money coming to town and some people that don't.
Candidate Bertha.
I would agree. I am unfamiliar with the specifics of the number TIF 4. If you could help me with a specific area.
I live in Elmhurst. I'm reading questions.
Overall, TIFs in general, I do agree that there are wonderful opportunities in blighted areas to help develop them. There are concerns over who needs them, who doesn't need them, and the effectiveness of those TIFs. There needs to be I think a thorough review of ones that have been done in the past to see their efficacy and maybe how we can change the parameters in order to move forward.
Thank you. Candidate Edwards.
So I would argue that we actually don't have that much undeveloped land here in Geneva, and trying to use TIF funding when we really don't have that much as it is. We're landlocked as we are. I would argue that we really need to be very, very concerned with examining the purpose and the need for TIF to be used in the very few areas that we have that they could be used.
Thank you. Candidate Esterlid. What are your thoughts on the removal of the Geneva Dam?
Wait, I did sign for that. The awe doesn't count against me, right? Okay, well, I guess you have to put your foot either in the water or outside of it. So, I'm actually opposed to keeping the dams. I think from an ecological point of view and all the ecological studies I've seen make it very clear that when people first showed up here, you seem to be concerned about that these days, they weren't there. And everything I read, and I read something, I think it's in Oswego, that the removal of the dam returned that part of the river to what it was supposed to look like. I actually was down there last year with one of the ecology classes. And that looks really great. And I know that I've seen the signs up in St. Charles when I go biking, and people are mad about it. And I understand that people are used to something, but just because we're used to something doesn't mean it's the best bet. And I think it will return us to where we used to be long before we decided to kind of mess with those things. I've not seen that many people voting. So after that, I'm not sure what the point is.
Candidate Furnish.
The Geneva Dam, I mean, it's got some value to it. You know, people take photographs, people right up down the bike trail. Nice place to stop, nice place to look. You know, stand there and watch and listen to the water run over. It's nice. St. Charles is going through the same thing. You know, they're trying to decide what to do with their band. The Corps of Engineers has the big say-so of what's going to happen here. And then the city, of course, they have to either push the Corps to do something different, or, and I'm sure the Corps of Engineers wants to take it out, because they talk about fish going up and down, they talk about water movements, and you get ponds of areas where it's stagnant and bad things grow on the bottom. And with the dam going on, they'll all wash it out and make things better. But the downside is it does flooding. You know, you have problems down the road.
Thank you. Candidate Berthaud.
I have extensive comments on the removal of the Geneva Dam. To keep it into 1 minute, I would say what is necessary, as there's a lot of misinformation out there, is public education on the pros and cons. We are completely missing that. Other municipalities who are facing the same question have done extensive research and acquired consultants as to the impact of dam removal. It is definitely up to the cities to decide. It is not up to the Army Corps of Engineers. The decisions remain with the city, and it needs to be an informed decision supported by the public.
Thank you. Candidate Edwards.
I would agree that public education is always something that is helpful. However, there are a lot of facets to the pros and cons of removal, possibly, of the dam. If the dam were to be removed, it is my understanding that then the city would bear the responsibility for ensuring that area, which could come at a huge cost for taxpayers. So there are many facets that go into this, rather than a yes or no, and public education really needs to be a key point so that all members of the city of Geneva feel that they have a voice in whether this stays or goes.
Thank you. Candidate Conquest.
Yes, thank you. When I was obtaining my signatures to file, I proactively asked people about their feelings. I had more questions than any highly charged feelings one way or the other. And to that end, my position is to let the process play out. So we are the cities to receive a final report from the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, late 25, early 26. I should note that it's actually the state owns the dam, and indeed, if the choice is made to keep the dam, that becomes ownership of the city of Geneva, the liability costs, the perpetual maintenance costs. So my position is to let the process play out and get all the facts available to the public, what the river will look like before and after, and then the council can proceed appropriately. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Furnished, you're first on this question. If elected, how will you work to protect the greater Geneva community from ICE agents entering our schools, houses of worship, hospitals, or showing at school bus stops, traumatizing our children and adults?
Who do you say is coming in?
ICE.
ICE?
Immigration.
Immigration, wow. As you know, this is a big-time state and federal thing going on. There are laws, already written at the federal level. There are laws written at the state level. If you check into it, you'll find out that the local police cannot interfere with ICE, making their visits. If we have to have a visit at a local school, or if something like that arises, I would firmly support, the law, whatever comes up. But it's a tough thing to do. And like I say, I just support the law.
This is a very complex issue where you need to balance between legal and policy enforcement, public safety, and protecting human rights. At this moment, it is definitely in flux between competing views on the federal and state level. I agree with Larry. We have no other option but to follow the law, however that may be handed down to us at a municipal level. Public safety is something that we can address at this level, and also it's within our strategic goals and our strategic plan of welcoming community and a diverse community and improving public safety. Those are some things that we can actually tackle versus the overall different philosophies regarding immigration.
Thank you. Candidate Edwards.
This particular topic it's not one without emotion. We see pictures of families being torn apart, essentially. And it doesn't make it very easy to just give you a 1-minute answer, unfortunately. But it's a typical time that we're living through, and hopefully some compassion will be able to be found.
Candidate Palmquist.
Yes, thank you. As mentioned previously, there is Illinois law that guides the behavior of local law enforcement, and our laws prohibit local law enforcement from actions enforcing immigration law when there's a criminal warrant involved. Then there can be some collaboration and participation, but not at just the civil immigration status level. So, yes, I would expect that our local law enforcement will follow the state laws guiding such behavior.
Thank you. Candidate Esterly.
I have to admit, I'm kind of disappointed that that question was asked. It was kind of a "do you still beat your wife" type of thing. So I would say that I think everybody's trying to be sensitive. I think that's a great thing, and we are talking about human beings. But in the end, we're talking about federal law. Law can be changed, but the resistance to federal law means you open the door to all federal laws being challenged, whenever they're inconvenient, to whatever someone's opinion is, and I'm not okay with that. So people should be treated humanely, but federal law, if it's not changed, it's the law.
Thank you. Candidate Bertho, you're first on this question. What will be your approach to help stem the rising property taxes?
Rising property taxes are multifaceted. What can we do at a municipal level? We can ensure efficiency and effectiveness in our fiscal planning. We can strive to, it leads into my thoughts on affordable housing, to create an environment where people are encouraged through job creation and through reducing the onerous of public regulation in order to streamline our processes and reduce our spending. Thank you.
If I'm not mistaken, the property tax percentage for Geneva was recently went down. However, our property taxes may well have gone up because the value of our properties are so much more than they were, let's say, in my example, my husband and I, when we bought our house in 2007, it is now worth approximately double. With that there is an increase in the tax that we pay for that, even when the percentage goes down. So I do think that some education would be beneficial for those residents of Geneva who might think that their rates are going up. It is because of the cost of their homes, not so much because of percentage.
Candidate Palmquist.
Yes, correct. The Geneva tax rate dropped below 5, and now we're at 4 something. And I think most of you know that the school district is the largest percentage, so we're a relatively small portion of our tax bill. At the same time, our EAVs have continued to go up, so I'll answer that 2 ways: to continue to promote efficiency and control what we can control, and make sure that we're conscious and responsible in our spending, and ensure that we continue to grow our local economy to make sure that we spread that tax burden across the broader tax base. Thanks.
Thank you. Candidate Esterly.
So I'm torn on this because I tend to be labeled as a no tax person. My wife would fool her eyes at what I'm about to say. But I often worry because I often draw myself back. I understand that, and I understand my taxes but my house value went up, tax went up, we bought some property. But at the same time, we have all those expectations of all those services. And I often have students sit down when I talk about, what does government look like? And there's this list of 15 or 18 things, everything from libraries to sanitation, all these things. All those people who have to be paid, all those people pensions have to be paid for, and there's a tremendous amount of stuff. The best thing I can tell you is that my goal would be to sit down and hear what people tell me and what's realistic and what are people willing to do without if taxes go down.
Candidate Furnish.
I've been here 35 years and looked at a lot of you people. You've been here a long time also. And you've been through the struggles, the school growing, all the school grows, our taxes skyrocketed to cover all that. Right now, presently, we've got a library, so our library, our schools are pretty well taken care of. Now our city's facilities are going to be our next big need. Personally, I would like to see them do it slowly instead of hitting us all at one time. I retired on Social Security, so in my heart, I say no new taxes. My kids tell me to suck it up and pay it. But, it's a big issue. Facilities, the city has dodged this for years, and now it's going to come back to bite it. They got to do something.
Thank you. The next question goes to candidate Edwards first. How can Geneva accommodate an aging population with housing diversity?
I think this is going to take longer than a minute, so I'll do my best. Excuse me. So every place is dealing with this. This is not just a Geneva issue. Our population is aging. And how do we address that? Well, we can look at being creative. We can look at changing the way we look at aging in terms of what does that mean for having a useful and purposeful life, right? And being able to get around town easily. How can we look at maybe some, public transportation issues? Pieces that could be incorporated to make life easier for anyone who's having a little bit of trouble getting around. That could be addressed, but I'm already at a minute and I've only talked about transportation.
Thank you. Candidate Palmquist.
I'll focus more on opportunities for
I covered transportation.
You covered transportation for opportunities in zoning and multifamily, for example. Planned unit developments. Is there some flexibility granted in density for more senior-friendly design, first floors, details of that nature, and a density that would allow a development to be feasible and affordable for seniors? There's also another concept that's growing across the country, and even like saw raised in Toronto, Canada, to allow secondary structures built on single-family homes. I think we used to call those brother-in-law homes or whatever. So flexibility like that, I think, and some innovation in zoning and development and some concessions to make sure that it's affordable, and a range of housing opportunities will be available in the future.
Thank you. Candidate Esther Lee.
So yeah, that's an issue. My mother, who's now in her late 80s, lives in, we call it a mother-in-law area. She lives in the back of my house, and so we've made concessions with that, and I assume at some point there'll be more concerns. Based on the lack of putting up new buildings or space, the idea of building for this, certainly sidewalks and doorway entries and other things, and making space for that would be something that's available. Actually, I think the city does a pretty good job with that at the current moment. But maybe some sort of incentives to the idea that if you could, if you're going to convert a piece of a house, as we did, because there was no incentive, we just did it. But the idea that maybe the buildings, and the same thing we were talking about with environmental concessions, that people could put, solar panels up and things like that. If you were doing that, could we make a point of advocating for that? Could we have things on the website about this is a way to fold an older relative in to a household? Is this a way that we could bring them more into a community? And are most people in Geneva willing to do that?
Candidate Furnish.
Not recently, but Geneva has put in some low-income housing units to help out the low-income housing. I've asked my alderman and a few of them, here in the community, why haven't they come up with a senior low-income housing? Like they say, design this single floor, make it affordable, and something that's not real expensive.
Candidate Bertho.
I agree with everything that everyone's been saying. One thing that I can add to this is adaptive reuse of underutilized buildings and to turn those into affordable housing. I went to a forum once in St. Charles that talked about the St. Charles Mall that would be a wonderful use for senior living because of its accessibility to transportation, to medical facilities, and to stores. One issue that's facing is, as was alluded to, that our tax rate may have gone down, but our assessed value has increased so much that some people are in peril of being pushed out of their homes because of the property tax increase. So again, we get back to streamlining the spending in order to be responsible stewards, in order to keep those people in their homes.
Thank you. Candidate Palmquist, this first question goes to you. What are the most critical responsibilities of an older person? And then it says salary.
Fame, power, and money is not part of that answer. I'm going to take two extremes with that answer. The first answer, and it sounds perfunctory and mundane, but statutorily, the most important thing we do is approve a budget. But what is presented at the end in the budget presentation and resolution that approves it starts much earlier, and with the workshops and analyzing the strategic plan and looking at performance measures. And so it's our job as aldermen to have a pulse of our constituents, look at our needs, and make those hard decisions. Those strategic plan objectives are wonderful and aspirational, but we have to prioritize and make the hard decisions. And that's the most important job that I think we have, coupled with, as I said, getting that residential feedback and then really in the first line of grassroots opportunity for residents to communicate their priorities to the city.
Thank you. Candidate Esterly.
So I'll back away from the idea of a specific. I would actually advocate the idea that as an alderman, the primary thing is the idea that you bring your expertise. Ideally, you have some expertise in life to this. That you would have a commitment to the city, because we're here. And so this is the most immediate notion of government. And that you'd be willing to listen. And I imagine there's a lot of listening, probably a lot of listening without making comments. And that you'd be willing to, what do people have to say, and then to build up, because that's important. But to recognize you're not just a mouthpiece for people, because then as you receive information, you have to blend together what people are telling you they want or they're worried about with the things you now know that you're coming in that perhaps other people don't know. And by blending those two things together, that you'd be able to make this best or most intelligent decision. And that you would be able to do that in a way that was honest and ideally open for people to know about.
Thank you. Candidate French.
I think the most important job of us is communications. As I walk through the neighborhood and I talk to people and ask them to vote for me, they are pretty well uninformed of what's going on, let alone what ward they live in. You guys are probably the top 10, 20% of the people in the community that know what's going on. Think of the bottom 10, 20%. We need to communicate to them. My wife was a school teacher for years, and every Friday she sent a newsletter home with her kids to let them know what's happening in the school. I'm going to do the same thing, electronically, come up with a newsletter, send it to everybody in my ward, let them know what's going on in this city. Some people didn't know about the bond being off the election this time around. But communicate, I think, is a big thing.
Candidate Bertho.
I agree that our number one responsibility is to be a voice of the community. Right now, the feedback I'm getting is that people feel frustrated with the lack of transparency and accountability. One thing that I wanted to do, adding on to yours, I wanted to establish an online portal for resident concerns where there can be service requests and feedback loops available to everyone. That's how I will devote my salary. and in establishing this, and I encourage, once established, for other aldermen in every ward to utilize that service.
Thank you. Candidate Edwards.
I would say our number one job is to be a representative of the residents of our ward, whatever ward that would be, to be their voice, whatever that might, even if it's not your own personal one, it's to be the voice of those ward members, to be the representative. You are the voice for those people in the room. Yes, communication is absolutely important, and that is reflected in that. Being the good representative that you should be actually communicating with those ward members. So that would be my answer.
Thank you. I'm told that we should go to closing statements, so let's start with candidate Esterlitz. You have 1 minute.
Okay. Well, it seems to me that I've already said quite a lot. I think that last question is the great summary of what you would then be making your choice on. Since I haven't actually ever been alderman before, you don't know what you're buying in any real sense. But the idea that I'm giving to you is that I've mouthed off a lot of meetings, I've talked a lot, I talk to people about politics, I look at politics, especially in the community sense, and I've gone to meetings and things like that, and then I finally, that moment, as that opened up, and now the third word, that I should actually, the proverbial put your money where your mouth is, and should do something, and should plug into that. It has become even more alive for me when I was walking around getting signatures, which probably is an experience we should probably all have to do for some reason, like homework or something. And you meet all these people, and they're telling you all these stuff, and you go all the way from people who are profoundly informed to people who are like, where? What? And that's true about communication, but it's also true about realizing who you're interacting with, and that's what's really kind of motivating me with all of this.
Thank you. Candidate Furnish, your closing statement.
It has been an honor to stand here or sit here and answer your questions for the League of the Women's Voters at this forum. This gathering is a testament to the incredible strength and leadership of women in our community, and I'm thrilled to be part of this impactful event. I would also like to thank the Geneva Library for helping with this event. Geneva is a great city and a good position to develop, and I'm in the most contested third ward on the east side of Geneva. The council is a very important position. The council is a team, folks. We need a person that can work with other people, and I am that person. I have shown that I have dedicated and contributed to the Geneva community. I passionately believe I will work for the best interests of the city. Thank you for your support, and vote for me, Larry French.
Thank you. Candidate Bertha.
Thank you all for being here on what is a very busy day. As we conclude, I want to leave you with a clear message about my commitment to the community. I'm running for office on the principles of transparency, accountability, and competency because I think these are the keys to effective governance. Transparency means you will always know how the decisions are made and how your tax dollars are being spent. Accountability ensures that I and all of us in office are answerable to you, the voter. Competency, I bring the skills and experience to manage our city's resources wisely and effectively. I ask for your vote not just as a promise, but as a pledge to work tirelessly for a government that serves you better. Let's build a Geneva where our local governance is a model of openness, responsibility, and excellence. I would also encourage you to look at my white papers that I have developed on dam removal and strategies to improve public safety at Emma's Landing.
Thank you. Candidate Edwards.
Thank you to all of you for joining us today, and thank you to the League of Women Voters for your time and dedication in putting these things together. I know it must not be an easy task. I would just like to leave you with what I had mentioned before. My core beliefs are transparency, accountability, and also safety. I believe these are 3 core items that we need in the 5th ward. I am also going to tell you that I am a fan of brevity. I am always the person who talks the least and listens the most. And that's what I will be bringing should you choose to vote for me in the 5th ward. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Conquest.
I'm going to thank my fellow candidates for being here because in local elections it's frequently hard to get people to run for office, and the fact that the city of Geneva has choices is just fabulous, and we really heard some good different ideas today. So that's one of our strengths, and I could go on far more than 1 minute on all of our other strengths as a community. One overarching strength is our identity. that might be a little bit subjective, but Geneva is unique, and I think the shining star in the Fox Valley, but we can't just take a snapshot and live here statically, so there are challenges, and we recognize all those. What I'll bring is very thoughtful, open-mindedness, a fierce desire to preserve that identity, knowing we still have to prosper, but also know that we have the luxury of being patient and ensuring that we get quality as we continue to grow. Thank you.
Thank you. Our time is up for this forum. For more information, please visit the nonpartisan voter guide, illinoisvoterguide.org in March. The candidates website, as well as the League of Women Voters Central Kane County website. Your participation as a candidate and as a voter is essential to preserving the democracy we hold dear. Please remember to vote on or before April 1st, as one vote can decide the election, and that one vote could be yours. Let's give these candidates a round of applause. And voters of Elmhurst. The League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan organization that neither supports nor opposes candidates or parties for any office. The League's purpose is to promote political responsibility through the informed and active participation of citizens in government. Providing this forum allows citizens to become better informed about the issues facing their community and to better become acquainted with the candidates running for office. We are happy to provide this service for the community. At this time, I'm going to ask you to turn off your cell phones and other electronic devices. And as far as any written questions that you would submit, it has to be for both candidates. This forum is for those seeking to be Geneva mayor for a 4-year term. They will each present a 1-minute introductory statement. The order determined alphabetically. Then questions will be asked, and each candidate will have 1 minute to respond in alternating order. Closing statements and continuing alpha rotation will also be 1 minute. League of Women Voter Central Kane County members will keep time, and candidates will strictly adhere to the time limit. Candidates, please notice the timers. When you see the stop sign, you may finish your sentence. Try and avoid compound sentences. Okay, so let's start with candidate Kevin Burns, opening statement.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. On September 30th of 2024, the City Council unanimously adopted the 2030 Strategic Plan. The core principles of that plan include strong governance, an informed and engaged citizenry, purposeful development and economic vitality, a safe, active, and welcoming community, environmental stewardship, and quality infrastructure and city services. I endorse that plan fully. I look forward to working with the council, the community, and the professional staff to articulate, to advance, and to achieve those principles, and I welcome the opportunity to do so with all of you. I ask for your vote on April 1st. Early voting starts on March 7th. Thank you.
Candidate Paula, your opening statement.
Thank you, Mr. Burns, for over 30 years of public service to Geneva, the League of Women Voters, and everyone showed up here today. I may not talk like a politician. You know, my sentences might not come out smooth, but I promise you, I will be passionate, transparent, truthful, responsive, and hardworking to make Geneva a world-class city for its size. I'm a construction professional with over 30 years of experience, managing very large and complex projects. I have a degree in civil engineering and a master's in business administration. I've been a resident of Geneva, member of St. Peter's Church since 2001. I'm husband to Kelly, father of Aiden and Bailey, grandfather of Charlotte, Brooklyn, Jackson. I've been a Cub Scout leader, Tri-City football coach. I've volunteered as a board member on many construction associations. I've been on the board, I've been president of the associations, and I'm currently president of IMSCA, an association of associations that lobbies in Springfield for subcontractor rights. So I've always been involved with government relations, and I know how government works.
Thank you.
I have the qualifications to be a great mayor for Geneva. Top on sentence. I'm not an English major.
Candidate Paula, define your vision for economic development for the city. What specifically will you implement to improve development in the city?
Our vision to vitalize Geneva is by transforming stalled developments, like the Millrace Inn and vacant storefronts. That's one of the reasons I'm running, right? I don't like driving through the east side of town, seeing a vacant lot, empty storefronts. I mean, Geneva's better than that. And that's the first thing people see when they come here. Even Dukes of Lee coming in from the south or from the north. You know, we want to have a vibrant gateways to the city. Also, through streamlined operations in the city and prudent financial planning, we are to reduce overhead and invest in critical infrastructure like the police station and City Hall and preserve Geneva's charm. By prioritizing residents' voices and returning to an automatic strong government model, we will ensure the community's needs shapes Geneva's future.
Thank you. Candidate Byrne, your vision.
The vision of Geneva is rooted in our strategic plan. I have had the pleasure of working on strategic plans since 1997. I have helped advance those plans to success. It's interesting to note that downtown occupancy rates are 96%. Geneva Commons, 92%. South Randall Road, 97%. Our light industrial and industrial, 96%. All those blend together to provide for a vital, vibrant, and essential economic base. Our community asked us many years ago, please broaden our tax base. We've done exactly that. When we focus, we succeed. And when I lead, we succeed.
Thank you. Candidate Burns. With the potential reduction of federal funds, how will that impact the city of Geneva?
Significantly. We are currently faced with an uncertain future with regard to the headwinds we're facing from Washington. Irrespective of your political beliefs, the reality is money and that spigot of money that we have been guaranteed and promised through previous grant approvals is now stuck. And I'll give you one example. The East State Street corridor. It's not a repaving from Route 25 to Gary Lane. It's an entire reconstruction. $11 million of that $20+ million project is now stuck. We're confident through the relationships we've built that we'll be able to free that money, but that's just one example. Another example would be, as discussed earlier, the discussion regarding the fate of the dam that's owned by the state of Illinois in Geneva. I can assure you folks, there will be no money available for such projects, not from the feds and unlikely from the state, as the state is facing a $3 billion shortfall.
Candidate Calvin.
I think that's one of the reasons that we have such a big turnout today, right? Is because we need to be fiscally responsible, and we need to know how to manage our money, right? We are getting drowning by some of the federal funds, but we have to lobby for money. We have to get money. There's money out there to get, but you need to know how to get it, right? I have extensive experience in the construction industry and lobbying, and I know how the money works and money flows. You don't get money from the federal government by making them upset, right? We want to be friends with the federal government. We want to make sure that we have inroads with our representatives, our senators, to the federal government to get more money to Geneva.
Candidate Pollock. Given the new technologies and the increasing cost of renewable energy may make it possible for Geneva to explore alternative sources for its electricity despite its contract with NIMPA. Do you favor seeking out those alternative sources, or do you favor staying with Prairie State Electricity until termination of Geneva's 50-year contract?
For me, all options are on the table at all times. I'm an engineer and a business professional, right? You have to keep all your options open. But what we do need to do is plan for the future. Not just 1 year, 2 year, 3 year, but we need to plan for the 50 years and see what the big picture looks like. If it makes sense, absolutely we'll look at that. You know, but it has to make sense. I don't have all the knowledge yet. I mean, I don't have all the background on this. I've not been involved in the city government, so I don't have all the background, but we'll investigate the background. We have a very smart community when I go out and about. There are a lot of engineers and smart people. We'll form task forces if we have to, but we're going to do it first and foremost. We're going to listen to all you, the residents, and work it through the aldermen to the city to make the right decisions.
Candidate Burns.
A couple of points made earlier in the forum with our council prospects. The contract with Prairie State expires on December 31st, 2041. There is no market for any community that has a contract with Prairie State to sell their shares. We only have to look one community south, when that community, respectfully, spent nearly $2 million to explore options to sell their shares of Prairie State. There is no market for it. And I will say this on the off chance most of you are not aware. The state of Illinois' renewable energy portfolio hovers around 7%. The city of Geneva's 25%. We're proud of that accomplishment. We continue to explore opportunities, and we will do so.
Candidate Burns, the city recently ended a contract with the Geneva Chamber to promote tourism and instead contracted with the Aurora Convention and Visitors Bureau. Do you support this? Why or why not?
I do support this. In fact, the entire city council supported it. In August of 2024, the city council voted unanimously to end the existing contract with the Chamber of Commerce, where we cut a check to the chamber. The chamber then used that money for tourism and other sort of advertising needs. Multiple meetings have taken place. In fact, the next one takes place in about 2 weeks, where we believe we can create a grant program and the Chamber of Commerce can use those monies that we grant with fewer restrictions. Such as referenced earlier, imagine making the ask for, hypothetically, $25,000 to $30,000 for each festival. That's an easy ask, that's an easy give, and those monies have fewer restrictions, so the Chamber can use those monies as they see fit. Currently, the use of such monies is oftentimes tied up in some of the state laws. We want to eliminate that, streamline that, provide the gift, because we do respect the Chamber of Commerce.
Thank you. Candidate Pollock.
I'm not yet convinced that giving the money to the Aurora Chamber was the right, or the Aurora Tourism Bureau was the right thing to do. When I'm driving down I-88, I'll see a big sign, a big billboard that says Aurora Tourism, come here. I don't see Geneva anywhere on that sign. We're paying money for something. I don't see it. I mean, I don't have all the answers. I have not been about the process since day one. So there might be more there to it. But usually you like to keep the money as local as possible, right? The Chamber does a great job. You listen to WGN radio. They promote Geneva like crazy. Geneva, Geneva, Geneva. They do a great job with that. So we really need to look at that and make sure that we're doing the right choice, the right decision. Again, it relies on the citizens and the aldermen to make that decision through public meetings.
I need you guys in the microphone to be picked up by the cameras, too.
Therefore.
Candidate Pollock. If elected, how will you work to protect the greater Geneva community from ICE agents entering our schools, houses of worship, hospitals, or showing at school bus stops, traumatizing our children and adults?
So public safety is number one for our residents in Geneva. The first thing the city needs to do is keep everybody safe through our police department and our fire department. But we need to follow federal, state, and local laws. Just as talked about with the aldermen, there are laws that we need to follow. There's no gray area on this. There's procedures, there's protocols. It's like the military. The police has a handbook to follow. It's not up to the mayor to decide what the police does. The police chief is a very good police chief, and the police department are very well trained, and let them do their job. It's not the mayor's job to do that job. There are many heartbreaking stories about this, and we emphasize. I mean, we consult with those people, and I feel bad about that. But there's laws we have to follow.
Candidate Burns.
My friend Mr. Pollock and the other council prospects referenced a state law. That state law is the Trust Act. That was approved by the legislature in 2017, signed into law by then Governor Bruce Raumer. The Trust Act is still in place. And the Trust Act says two things. Local law enforcement agencies cannot interfere with federal agencies and cannot support the action of federal agencies. That's the reality, folks. If that law needs to be or desires to be changed, there are some representatives, believe it or not, in Springfield who are asking for that law to be changed. But until then, or if then, the City of Geneva, our police department, will abide by the laws that are currently on the books.
Thank you. Candidate Burns, this was a really popular question with the aldermanic candidates. What are your thoughts on the removal of the Geneva Dam?
It was referenced during the aldermanic debate as well. The Army Corps of Engineers and the Illinois Department of Natural Resources have advised all communities up and down the Fox River in Kane County that a final report that will be revised, reviewed, and then submitted is not available and will not be published until late 2025, early 2026. At that time, that's when we convene meetings of the public to take the temperature of the public, whether or not we should keep the dam as it is, refine the dam, and or have moved. If we vote to remove the dam, there's no cost, allegedly, to the city of Geneva. If we refine and or keep it, the property becomes ownership of the city of Geneva. And as I stated earlier, I firmly believe in these tightening belt times that the state of Illinois, the IDNR, and the Army Corps will have less than zero money to worry about dams and their status.
Thank you. Candidate Power.
Yes, the Geneva Dam. I mean, it's a landmark for Geneva, right? Everybody. It's part of our brand. It's part of Geneva's brand. Part of Geneva's brand is the dam in Geneva. That's what people see. But is it right to take it out or not? We need to wait for the engineering to come through and weigh all our options. Again, it's up to the citizens and the ultimate to figure it out. But we need to rely on engineering, and also we need to cooperate, and we need to have discussions with St. Charles and Batavia, because it's all part of the same system, right? You can't just take one dam out and these two people leave their dam. We all got to talk and say, hey, let's get together as Tri-Cities and figure out what the best solution is here, right? Let's collaborate with them. Let's figure out what the best solution is for the dam.
Thank you. Candidate Pollack. How can Geneva accommodate an aging population with housing diversity?
Again, the alderman brought up some good ideas. Same like with the elderly housing, housing diversity. I mean, the city of Geneva, we're very fortunate. All our house prices have gone up, but it's bad also because we have an aging population, right? So it's hard for to provide diverse housing because people that live here can't really move. A lot of us can't move because there's nowhere to move to. You can't downsize and pay more money, right? I know a lot of friends, they had 4 or 5 kids, the kids left, but they're still here because they can't move anywhere. So how do we get diverse housing? But we got to get some movement in our communities. We need to look for grants. We need to look for options. There's options out there to do that. The population of Geneva has gone down because there's a lot of people like me where the kids have left and gone to college. So we need to look for options and get residents involved to find options to do that.
Thank you. Candidate Burns.
During the aldermanic discussion, there was a reference to, and I think the term was granny flats. The formal term is accessory dwelling units. The City of Council approved legislation or an ordinance to allow for homeowners to develop, build, and maintain accessory dwelling units on their property. That's one option. Number 2, we all know this, so I'm stating the obvious. The cost of land is oftentimes the most prohibitive element of developing something that is affordable. And you and I can define what affordable is, or we can use the state's policy. Currently, we have nearly 500 affordable units in the city of Geneva. Those are primarily through cooperation of the property owner, the building owner, and of course, those who reside there. Does more need to be done? Absolutely. But I think it's also important to stress, as stressed earlier, the city's portion of the property tax bill is less than a nickel for every dollar paid in taxes.
Thank you. Candidate Burns, let's stay with the same population here. What can the city do to improve facilities for Geneva seniors, such as the existing senior center?
You've answered the question. Respectfully, of course. We need to have wraparound services in cooperation and collaboration with the Geneva Township. The Geneva Township's mission and vision is primarily, not exclusively, but primarily to work with the senior community to provide services, whether it be transportation, whether it be outings, whether it be education, whether it be tax preparation, and so on. Geneva does have a PACE bus route. Geneva also funds a ride-in-cane program. And I think all of you are aware, I certainly am becoming more aware, that once I hit a certain age, I also receive the state's homestead exemption, which immediately carves out some of the taxes I pay on the home. The city can do a lot by collaborating with those who are already doing so much.
Thank you. Candidate Howard.
So yeah, the seniors, I mean, we need to, we can learn so much from the seniors, right? And we have a lot of schools, we have a lot of kids and we'd like to get the seniors and some of the high school kids or some of the grade school kids to do things together, right? Seniors, they like to play games. You know, we all like to play games. To go have the kids go play games with the seniors and get them socially involved. There's a lot of things we can do as a community, I think, to better respect and give the seniors, you know, more things to do. I've been to the senior center. I mean, it's a great spot. They love going there, but we can get more people involved with it. I think it's great. Because a lot of people, we need to advertise it more too. A lot of people don't know about it, right? We need to get it out there. We need to get it on social media, right? The seniors aren't using it, but other people are, to promote it more so that more people know about it and can donate and spend time there with it.
Thank you. Candidate Pollack. Diversity and inclusion. Where do you stand?
Diversity and inclusion is very important, right? We need to make sure that everybody, doesn't matter your race, color, skin, religion, that you're all involved in the city of Geneva, right? The city of Geneva has much to offer it all. But it's not only that sort of diversity. It's also handicapped people, people that can't hear, people that can't see, people that can't walk, right? We need to make sure that our city is accessible for all those people so they can all enjoy the benefits of Geneva. In the construction field, I actually work for a 100% women-owned company. I work with a lot of diverse contractors. I've mentored diverse contractors to get their game up, you know, but I really appreciate, you know, diversity, and we're only good as everybody in the room. You know, we got to get everybody involved. Thank you.
Candidate Burns. Any question?
The City of Geneva City Council approved a part-time position of an inclusion and engagement analyst to help us, as is rooted in the strategic plan, to be a more welcoming community, to reach out, not only champion what we've already done with regard to making Geneva a more welcoming community, but what we can do more of. Principal to that goal is collaboration with the schools, the park district, the library district, the township, yes, and even our friends at the county. The reality is, folks, Geneva has changed over the years, and there are a diverse population who wish to live here. There are those who have already lived and raised their children here, and all of us are part of that great melting pot. I've lived in Geneva 51 years. That wasn't the case 51 years ago. We are a better community because of the diversity of our residents, the diversity of our businesses, the diversity of the men and women and children who visit our community annually, to the tune of nearly 500,000 people. So, like my friend, Mr. Pollack, I support those initiatives.
Thank you. Candidate Burns. What role should the city play in assisting small businesses and startups, including potential tax incentives, grants, or financial tools?
Yes, yes, and yes, because the City of Geneva has an economic development plan that, in fact, offers all such opportunities. We don't have a whole heck of a lot of arrows in our quiver because we are, forgive me for the inside baseball, a non-home rule community. But we do have sales tax incentives. We do have facade programs. We do have ARPA money that all of you probably read. We invested in multiple buildings, including the old Little Owl building and others, to help them launch their business, and we believe will sustain their business. Most importantly, as Geneva remains successful, it attracts new business opportunity, whether it be the large organizations who wish to locate here, or even the small mom and pop shops. Again, 96% of our downtown is occupied. The number one call we get every day is, how successful are you doing? And we're proud to respond, very successful.
Candidate Pollack.
So small businesses, when they come to Geneva or they want to open a storefront, I've talked to a lot of these small businesses that, you know, I know a lot of people that wanted to open stuff here, like in the Little Isle and so forth. And they find roadblock after roadblock after roadblock in the current city government. What we need to do is take those roadblocks down. What we need to do is have, you know, when these businesses come to the city, assign them a liaison, or like to call it a project manager, right? Let's assign a project manager to this business that walks this business through every branch of our city government. You know, walk them through planning and zoning, walk them through historical, walk them through, so they have one person to contact if they have any questions. Because it can get very confusing and overwhelming when you're a small business trying to figure this out. You don't have a bunch of people working for you. You're just a small business trying to figure it out. If you have one person to deal with, it'll make your life a lot easier. Thank you.
Candidate Pollack, how will you improve transparency and how will you assure community and council members' voices are heard?
Yeah, that's a real issue right now is transparency in city government, right? When you go to an alderman meeting, if you go to a city council meeting, people have gone to city council meetings and gone to the committee of the whole. They all like, well, it looks like the decision's already made. No one really votes on anything. Everything's already made ahead of time. All right, so let's go to another meeting. Let's go. So there are public meetings, other public meetings with the city of Geneva, but they're not online. They're not, you can't easily see them. There's minutes and notes on it, but it's a little bit harder to find. So we want to make any public meeting public and put it online. We have the technology, it's no big deal. It doesn't have to be something fancy. We don't have fancy TV cameras and stuff. But let's make sure that the citizens have access to this information, right? For example, with the referendum, most people didn't know about it. To the last minute. It was rush, rush, rush. We tried to push it through, and guess what? There was a big mistake. And they had to pull off the referendum off the ballot. That was very embarrassing to the city. Very embarrassing. Thank you.
Candidate Burns.
When you make mistakes, you acknowledge mistakes, you accept mistakes, you own those mistakes, and you are candid with the men and women in the community that by saying a mistake was made. Historic Preservation Commission meetings, Planning and Zoning Commission meetings, Committee of the Whole meetings, City Council meetings are all broadcast live. Those then recordings are archived. You can access them anytime. We invested in personnel and equipment to make certain that that level of transparency has been provided. But here's the number one issue, ladies and gentlemen. All of you know, or I believe know, that with 4 simple clicks, all of you can receive information regarding any agenda item coming forward on the council through a program called Notify Me. Check it out on our website. Very simple. In fact, it's the most visited page on our website. Number 2, anyone interested in any development proposal. The moment a formal plan is submitted to Geneva, that plan is put on our development webpage. You are so notified through the Notify Me, and then you are in the know. That is the height of transparency.
Thank you. Candidate Burns. What are the most important steps Geneva needs to take to protect our environment?
We have to apply the resources we have to opportunities that we believe are sound. As I stated earlier, 25% of our entire energy portfolio is renewable. And I think it's worth noting that the development of the Natural Resources Committee under my tenure is also an organization. They're having their party here in just a couple of weeks, I think. They have helped populate and repopulate Geneva's canopy, tree canopy. We also have men and women throughout the community who are indeed installing solar. And that is a one-stop shop. If you apply for solar in Geneva, it takes approximately 30 minutes to get your permit. We are a solar smart community, designated by a federal organization. We are also an EV-ready community. We are purchasing new electric vehicles and hybrid vehicles. The challenge we find in that realm is that oftentimes electric vehicles take somewhere in the neighborhood of 12 to 16 months to receive. So like every community our size, we do what we can with the resources we have, and we apply them accordingly.
Candidate Pollack.
The environment is not only, cars and making sure that, we use electric cars where it's feasible. Propane-powered vehicles also is a very, very efficient way of protecting the environment. There's many other vehicles, but also the environment is the beautification of Geneva, right? Making sure we have green spaces, making sure we save our trees, making sure that there's a lot of flowers and plants. That's all part of our environment. Making sure there's no erosion control. I drive around Geneva, there's a lot of places that there's erosion control and stuff, and I don't see any silt fence up, I don't see any, I don't know. So we got to watch those things, right? There's laws about that, and it's a big deal. Also, using salt. We like to use a lot of salt here, and when it gets icy, people love using salt. We got to watch the use of salt. And sometimes there's other options besides using salt. The river, right? We got to watch. We got to educate. We need to educate our community about getting water. A lot of our storm drain goes right into the river. Let's protect those storm drains. People don't know that. We need to educate people so they know about that to protect our rivers, because it's very important. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Pollack. How will you move forward the development of the no-race property regardless of the Historic Preservation Commission?
So, I mean, the Mill Race property is one of my pet peeves. That's one of the reasons I ended up running for mayor, besides the empty storefronts, the upside-down government, and I think too much overhead in the city. But the Mill Race Inn, we need to, it's an embarrassment. It's been sitting there for many years. I think the building was wrecked like 7 years ago. It's been vacant much longer. It's an embarrassment to the city. We need to be able to come to a compromise, right? Life is full of compromises. Not everybody's going to be happy, but we need to make common sense choices and compromise so that move developments forward. I get things done. I don't have time in business. You don't have time to sit around and wait for stuff. You got to get it done, or otherwise you're out of business, right? If you're using government money, it doesn't matter. Time isn't of the essence. But in business, time is of the essence. So we need to get it done, come up with a common sense solution where both parties are satisfied. You might not be happy, but you're satisfied, and move the project forward, whatever that project may be.
Kennedy Burns.
My friend might not be aware of some of the details I'm going to share with you. Number one, when the City of Geneva City Council designated the blacksmith shop as historic, it was clearly upsetting to the developer. The City Council then, again, per a request from other citizens, redesignated that as an historic structure. The next step in this process rests respectfully with the landowner. The landowner can choose two paths to success, and this has been shared with the developer. Number one, ask the City Council to reconsider the designation of the historic site, the blacksmith shop. That requires 8 affirmative votes on the City Council to de-designate. Or, the developer can serve a redevelopment agreement to the city, including, if they so choose, raising the blacksmith shop, and through Illinois statute and local ordinances that reflect that statute, it would only require 6 affirmative votes to move forward. The ball, ladies and gentlemen, rests in my good old friends, the developer.
Thank you. Kennedy Burns, what are your thoughts on the prospect of Geneva becoming a home rule community?
Bleak. Home rule community, the question was asked. A home rule community is defined by Illinois statute as communities of 25,000 people or more. There's 2 ways to achieve it. Grow naturally to 25,000 people, and then the community can decide through council action to, yes, let's become home rule, or no, thank you. It is unlikely, ladies and gentlemen, Geneva will eclipse that magic 25,000 number. Why the 25,000 number was chosen? You'd have to go back to 1970 and discuss with the legislature when they redid the Constitution. The reality is this. They tossed a coin. What sounds good? 25,000? Okay, fine. It's unlikely Geneva will become a home rule community. I don't believe for a moment the voters would support such an initiative. That's why we continue to do what we can with the resources and the authority we have to make certain we have the best community possible.
Kennedy Pollard.
I'm with the residents. I disagree with Geneva being a home rule community. Prior to running, I wasn't quite sure how that would affect Geneva. But here's an example. If Geneva was a home rule community, and we had voted it to be so, the referendum for a new public safety buildings for $68 million wouldn't have needed to be voted on. The city could have just passed it. Right? I think we should all have a voice in that sort of thing. I mean, that's just me. I believe in democracy. I believe we're a small community. Everybody here is smart. Look at the people. Look at the involvement here. This is awesome. You guys all care, right? We gotta listen to the people and care about the community. They love this community. So I'm against home rule community, and I think for example, the $45 million that they talked about for the police station, St. Charles Police Station cost $24.5 million. Not sure what we were building for $45 million. So if we were a home rule community, we could have just passed it, no questions asked.
Kennedy Pollard.
I'll remember keep standing Wednesdays.
Speaking of the police station, are there alternative locations to South Street that could work for the new police station?
So I'm new to politics. I wasn't an alderman. I haven't been involved with all the discussions. But I do believe we need a new police station eventually. I mean, there hasn't been any planning for it, right? We should have planned for this 20 years ago, maybe. Shouldn't the police station ever been built where it was built? Bad decision, right? When you plan stuff, you want to plan something that lasts 50 years, Not 10 years, 20 years. Oh, we got to wreck this fire station in the west side of Geneva because we didn't build it right. Because we're getting women firefighters now. Well, they had women firefighters 20 years ago. What was the plan? We need to plan for the future. Yes, there are alternate sites we can find. And I think, find a good site, get the residents all to agree on it, and move forward.
Thank you. Candidate Burns.
20 years ago, the citizens of Geneva voted nearly 70% to approve the development of a new police station at the current site, and prior to that, approved the construction of the fire department abutting Randall Square. One council member thought it best that we save $15,000 and not build a basement in that fire station. The moment that door opened, we knew this was going to be a crowded facility. I would challenge my friend with respect to female firefighters and police officers. Number two, the reality is it does rest with the citizens. I believe, like all of you, I don't consider police officers and firefighters as overhead. I believe they are essential to the security, the safety, and the brand of Geneva. And I do believe they desire and deserve new facilities. When that will happen, to be determined. But do not forget that over the course of the last 20 years, we have spent millions of dollars improving the sites that we do have in preparation to asking for something that would last decades and decades longer.
Candidate Burns. When the Cultural Arts Commission was ended, we lost 4 concerts at River Park and other cultural amenities. What do you plan to do to restore these and add more cultural arts opportunities?
The premise of the question is incorrect, respectfully. We did not lose 4 concerts at River Park. In fact, as all of you know, there's multiple concerts held throughout the community. The reality is that the Cultural Arts Commission was performing their duties extraordinarily well, however, not within the confines of Illinois statute. And we believe that by investing those monies in an existing organization called Geneva for the Arts, those programs continue quite well. Whether it be Shakespeare in the Park, whether it be concerts down at River Park, in cooperation with our friends at the Park District. We've had multiple cultural events throughout this community that did not exist prior to, but do now. We should not just say, gee, we lost this, and not recognize what we've gained as well.
Thank you. Candidate Paul.
Yeah, I think it's very important, the culture, the arts for the city of Geneva, and I think we should support these events. How do you do it? How do you do it? You go out and you find sponsors. Find sponsors for these events to get them going, right? We look for grants. We look for, there's many sources of funding out there. You just need to be creative. You need to listen to people. You need to get input from people. But I think that's one of the things that make Geneva special. It's like, Shakespeare in the Park was a great event, and all those other things. So I think we just need to go out and find some funding to get some of those events back.
Thank you. Candidate Pollard. What means would you use to educate the public on the issues?
Now it's so easy now, right? I don't know how many people are watching right now on BATV, but anybody can, social media, YouTube, and so forth. Social media is a big thing, right? Especially for any population, any age population. So we can use, social media to get events out there. We can have town hall meetings, I think are very important. Task force with residents from the community for different things. But I think the more people we get involved, we're going to raise the water in the pool, right? The higher the water in the pool. And the more people we get involved, the more support we will get for these issues. And that's the problem right now. Not a lot of people know what's going on. You walk around and you ask residents, what about this, what about that? They don't know. So we need to get people involved. We need to do a better job with our Facebook page with the city. Sometimes it's not showing the important things that it needs to show. And we need to really focus, maybe get better with communicating with our residents. Better communication is key.
Thank you. Candidate Burns.
Again, notify me, ladies and gentlemen. Notify me is 4 clicks away on the city's website. In addition, we have a weekly newsletter that goes to anyone who registers with the city to receive that newsletter. And that information includes not just what's coming up on the upcoming agenda, but also what issues are percolating in the community, with links to the schools, the library, the parks, the township, etc., and review of and a copy of the video of the previous council meeting. All the information is out there, and I know all of you know that. Our #1 visited site on the city's website is development updates. Thousands and thousands of Facebook users, Instagram, X, etc. The responsibility, I believe, humbly, despite our best effort to convey, it is as simple as a couple clicks, and you'll know everything you want to know, perhaps even more than you want to know, and then you can discern what is important for you. My cell phone number for city business, 630-742-8916. Perhaps everybody already has it. It's also posted online. Communicating with your alderman directly is also welcome.
Thank you. This is question 18. These two are really going at it here. All right. This will be the last question, and then we'll go to closing statements. Every year, an Arbor Day proclamation calls upon all citizens and civic organizations to support efforts to protect our trees and woodlands and to plant trees and promote the well-being of this and future generations. Should developers seeking to be annexed to the city of Geneva at least be asked to consider this value as a neighborly gesture of goodwill and willingness to be an integral part of this community as good citizens and stewards of our trees and woodlands?
The short answer is yes, and that is always done. But keep in mind, you've made a very clear distinction. If there is land that wishes to be annexed to the city of Geneva, that land is not within the corporate authority, and we have no say over how that land is determined. If that land is touched in a way that perhaps upsets a lot of us, or some of us, that's up to the landowner. Many, many years ago, the city of Geneva debated for months on end a tree preservation ordinance on public property and private property. And in the reality of politics, even at the local level, you get what you can negotiate. We see developments, whether it be residential or others, oftentimes remove what some people feel are critical and vital trees. Others, we know, are just scrub. But if you expect the city council, please speak up, to say to private property owners, you can't touch trees on your property, I hope you'll involve yourselves in those debates, because there'll be many, they'll be long, and they'll be interesting.
Candidate Paula.
Yeah, I mean, trees are one of the things that make Geneva special. It's something we love about Geneva. You know, I walk in the Forest Preserve almost every day with my big dog. You see me walk around with my big dog, Oliver. Say hi. Just walking around. Walk up and down the Forest Preserve. I love the trees, right? And I believe that, you know, but also you have to do development. So you have to use common sense. I mean, we have to use common sense in everything we do. That's a common theme I want to demonstrate to you, that we want to make common sense and make the right decisions. Have good negotiation. Figure it out. You take a tree down here, maybe you got to plant a tree over here, you know. But we got to make common sense with the trees. We need to keep our trees. Trees are also very important to the environment, right? For oxygen and all that good stuff. I'm not a scientist, but I think that developers, we get them on board. I work in a lot of municipalities throughout Chicagoland. I work in Deerfield, Lincolnshire, all these other places. So I'm very familiar with a lot of the other things that some of the villages do. So we're going to look at some of the best practices out there for it, and we're going to follow those best practices that other villages and cities do.
Candidate Pollard.
Ending speech?
Yes.
Okay, all right.
Closing statement.
Not a speech, just 1 minute. So, the city of Geneva is in a crisis. From aging infrastructure to stalled developments. Look at all the people here. That's why they're here. City government's upside down right now. The city administrator and mayor are running the city and letting the aldermen know what to do. This is demonstrated with any major decision that seems to be already made before the committee meetings. Another example of this is the committee of the whole meeting, where aldermen read off a script given by the alderman and the mayor to read. The aldermen aren't coming up with that. They're just reading the script. Another example is a failed public safety referendum. First was a big rush to get added. We got phone calls. Do you want this? Do you don't want this? Yeah. And then it was rushed through and then had to be canceled a week later. What's going on with that? I mean, that was a big deal. It was a $68 million referendum. The current mayor has, he's got blinders on because he's been here for 26 years. It's time for change, right? When you're somewhere for 26 years, you don't even see the problems around you, right? It's just like at home. My wife is always on me because there's a crack in the wall or something. I don't see it because I walk by it every day, right? So it's time for a change. Vote for Percy. Oh, wait, Kelly, I love you. I forgot to say that. Thank you.
I moved to Geneva in 1974. I have been involved, I have been informed, and I have been inspired by this community ever since. To be involved authentically means that you support the community as a whole. The city, the parks, the library, the township, the school district. When you are involved, you learn things. And when you learn things, you become better informed. And when you become better informed, you are inspired by not just a community, but by all who visit Geneva, all who invest their money in the business in Geneva, and you realize the promise and the potential of Geneva. To correct my good friend, I've only been mayor for 24 years, not 26. But I look forward to the next 4, because you'll need a mayor who has experience in advancing a strategic plan, not just some weird ideas, but by nearly 2,000 citizens and business owners who said to the council, these are your GPS coordinates for the next 4 years. I endorse them. There's never been a mention of them by my good friend Karsten.
Our time is up for this forum. For more information, please visit the Nonpartisan Voter Guide, IllinoisVoterGuide.org in March. The candidates' website, as well as the League of Women Voters Central Kane County website. Your participation as a candidate and as a voter is essential to preserving the democracy we hold dear. I'll turn this over to Kelly Rotella.
You invite me to one. Since you're friends, I know we were friends.
Thank you very much. As we wrap up this forum, this was our 5th candidates forum. I would like to extend my gratitude to all the candidates for their participation and to the audience for their engagement. Your presence today demonstrates the importance of civic involvement and the desire for informed decision-making within the community. We encourage you to continue asking questions, keep seeking information, and engaging with the candidates in the days leading up to the election. Remember, your vote is your voice, and it is vital to make it heard. A special thank you to the Geneva Library for hosting us and for all who made this forum possible, including our dedicated volunteers and supporters, especially Troop 144. We hope this evening or this afternoon has provided valuable insights to aid you in making informed choices on election day. Thank you again for being here. Our next forum will not be until February 24th. Safe travels home, and let's continue to engage in meaningful dialogue as we work together to strengthen the country. Thank you very much.